During World War II, the Navy was desperate. Radar mattered, survival mattered more, and somebody somewhere thought they could bend reality. That's where the story starts, with the USS Eldridge, a destroyer. A normal warship, at least on paper. According to the story, it was chosen for a secret test. The goal was simple: make the ship hard to detect, maybe invisible, maybe untouchable. But the details never stayed simple. Some versions say giant coils were wrapped around the ship. Some say the deck filled with strange equipment. Some say scientists watched from a distance, waiting for the signal. Then the power hit, and things got weird fast. Witnesses claimed the ship started to glow, not from fire, not from lightning. A green light, strong enough to make people look away. Strong enough to make the air feel wrong. Then, according to the legend, the Eldridge vanished from radar, not just fuzzy, gone. And then came the part that made the story last for decades. Some say the ship disappeared completely. Not moved, not hidden, gone from sight. For a few terrifying moments, the ocean held nothing where the ship had been. Then it came back, but not cleanly. Not normally. People claimed sailors were screaming. Some were confused. Some were sick. Some couldn't speak at all. A few reportedly wandered around like they didn't know where they were. And then there were the darkest claims. Some men allegedly came back changed, like their minds had snapped. Others were said to have vanished for good. And one rumor kept spreading because people could not stop repeating it, that some sailors were found fused into the steel, not standing near it, not trapped inside it, fused into it. That image is why this story never died. Because if even a small part of it was true, then this wasn't just a failed experiment. It was something much worse, something nobody could explain, something that sounded more like a warning than a test. The Navy never helped the story. It denied everything. Flat out. No teleportation, no invisibility, no disaster like that. But the denials did not end the rumors, they made them louder. Over the years, people claimed documents went missing, records changed. Witnesses gave different answers. Some said they were pressured. Others said they had never spoken at all. Every time someone tried to pin the story down, it slipped away again. That's why the Philadelphia experiment became bigger than the ship. It turned into a question people could not let go of. What if the government really did try to push science too far? What if the test worked just enough to go wrong? What if the crew saw something they were never supposed to see? And what if the truth was buried so deep that only fragments survived? That's the real power of this story. Not the claims, the uncertainty, because the more people looked, the less they found. And the less they found, the more they wondered, was the Eldridge part of a real military experiment? Or was it a story built from fear, war, and bad memories? Maybe that's why it still spreads. Because the ocean was dark, the war was real, and somewhere in that chaos, a ship supposedly disappeared, and people still want to know why.
World War II changed everything. Science got dragged into the war fast. And once that happened, nothing stayed normal. Governments desperately searched for technological advantages. Radar, advanced weapons, secret military research. Everyone wanted one thing: an edge, not a small edge either, a real war-winning advantage. If a ship could vanish from radar, that was huge. If a weapon could hit harder, same thing. If a breakthrough stayed hidden, even better. That's where the rumors start. The Philadelphia experiment. A Navy project people still argue about today. Some say it was real. Some say it was pure myth. But the story never died. The idea sounds simple at first. Make a ship invisible to enemy radar. That was the official kind of dream. Nothing too crazy, just military tech pushed way too far. But then the story grows, fast. People started talking about magnetic fields, strange energy, physics nobody fully understood. And suddenly, this was not just about radar anymore. That's when Nikola Tesla enters the picture, or at least his ideas do. Tesla was the kind of genius people never stopped talking about. Alternating current, high voltage, wireless power, stuff that sounded impossible until it worked. So when people looked for answers, Tesla's name kept coming up. Some said his work pointed toward experiments with fields and energy. Some said the Navy used ideas like his to test something extreme. Others say that's where the legend got bigger than the facts. And that's the problem. The truth and the myth got mixed together. Files are missing. Stories conflict. Witnesses described different things. That makes the whole case harder to pin down. Still, the core claim stayed the same. A ship was tested. It was supposed to disappear from radar, maybe even from sight. Maybe for only a moment, maybe longer than that. And then the story gets creepy, because some people claim the crew suffered for it. Confusion, panic, men acting strange. Some stories went even further. They said the ship didn't just vanish. They said it came back wrong. That's the part that made the rumor explode. Not just hidden, not just scrambled, wrong, like reality itself had glitched for a second. Now, let's be careful here. There's no solid proof this happened the way people say.
A lot of this is legend, not confirmed history. But legends like this do not survive by accident.
They survive because they touch something real. Fear, secrecy, war, and the idea that governments will push science way past safe limits if the stakes are high enough. That's why the Philadelphia experiment still sticks. It has radar, secret research, Tesla, the Navy, and just enough mystery to keep people asking questions. Maybe the real story was simpler. Maybe it was a failed test.
October 1943. Something goes wrong in Philadelphia. Not a little wrong, completely wrong. The USS Eldridge is part of a Navy test. Power surges through the ship. Then, the air starts to look wrong. Men on deck see green light wrapping the hull. The fog turns bright. The storm gets louder. And then, the ship is just gone. That's the story anyway. According to the legend, the Eldridge didn't just vanish. It slipped somewhere else. Some say Norfolk, Virginia, hundreds of miles away, for a few minutes, maybe less. Then it came back. Same ship, same name, but not the same crew. The men on board reportedly came back shaken. Some were sick right away, nausea, dizziness, confusion. Others could barely speak. A few allegedly didn't even know where they were. They stared at their own hands like they didn't belong to them. And then the stories got darker. People started talking about sailors who changed after the test, men who couldn't sleep, men who flinched at every sound, men who stopped answering questions. Some accounts claimed the experiment did something to their minds, something permanent. They were there, then they weren't. Not all the way. That's what made the story stick, not just a missing ship, a broken one. Then came the rumors that never died, the worst ones. The ones people repeated in low voices like they were afraid of being overheard. Sailors fused into the steel, men buried inside the ship's walls, alive, breathing, trapped where no one could reach them, no one could prove it. No official record ever confirmed it. But the image was too strong. A man turning with the metal around him, a scream no one could pull back out. That kind of story doesn't fade. It spreads. And the Navy didn't help matters. Files were missing, witnesses disagreed. Details changed over time. Every gap gave the legend more room to grow. People filled in the blanks with the worst possible version. That's how conspiracy theories win. Not with proof, with silence. The Philadelphia experiment became bigger than one ship, bigger than one test. It turned into a warning about what happens when science moves faster than common sense. People saw a military secret. Then they saw a cover-up. Then they saw something even worse. A failure so strange no one wanted to say it out loud. Was it real? Maybe not the way the legend says. Maybe there was a test. Maybe there was bad equipment. Maybe people saw things they didn't understand. That part is possible. Wartime programs were messy, dangerous, hidden. But the full story? The teleportation, the fused bodies, the ghost ship? That's where fact starts to break apart. Still, the legend survived because it hit something deep. It takes one of our biggest fears and puts it on a warship. Losing control, losing time, losing yourself. That's why people still talk about it. Because the ship didn't just disappear from the harbor, it disappeared into rumor. And once that happened, it never really came back.
Years later, the stories did not stop. They got worse. Men who survived the project came back changed, not all at once, not in a way doctors could explain. At first, it was small things. They got lost in places they knew. They stared at walls for long minutes. They asked the same question twice, then 3 times. Then they stopped sleeping. Some said they heard things nobody else could hear. A machine humming in the next room, a voice in the hallway, footsteps right outside the bed when the hall was empty. Their wives noticed first. Their children did too. They would freeze in the middle of dinner. They would turn fast at nothing. They started locking every door, then checking them again, then again. Doctors called it stress. Some said it was guilt. Some said it was shock. But the stories kept coming. A sailor would wake up and not know his own name. Another would stand outside his house, unable to remember how he got there. One man reportedly spent hours talking to someone in an empty chair. Then the rumors turned darker. People said some of the surviving crew vanished. Not for a day. For good. They left work and never came back. Their cars were found parked in strange places. Their rooms were left untouched. Their names were mentioned less and less. No one could prove what happened to them. That made the stories grow. By the time the Cold War was in full swing, nobody wanted to look too hard. That was the real problem. Fear was everywhere. People were already convinced the government knew more than it said. So when these rumors surfaced, they spread fast. Some versions said the military had silenced anyone who got too close to the project. Witnesses, nurses, clerks, even family members. People who asked questions were told to stop. People who kept asking were moved, watched, or ignored. And then came the strangest claims. One story said a sailor froze in the middle of a room and just disappeared. Not died, not escaped. Disappeared. The people around him allegedly saw him flicker, like a bad television signal, before he was gone. Another story said a crew member started shaking uncontrollably after seeing the ship again. He backed into a wall. Then he caught fire. No one ever agreed on the details. No one ever produced proof. But the story kept changing, and that made it spread even more. That is how these legends work. They do not need evidence. They need fear. They need silence. They need people already halfway convinced something is being hidden, and the government never helped. No full answer, no clear public report, no simple statement that shut it all down. Just denials, just missing records, just enough silence to make people wonder what was real. So the rumors grew teeth. Was it mass panic? Was it bad science? Was it a military experiment that went wrong in ways nobody wanted to admit? Or was it something stranger? The surviving sailors never told one single story. That may be why this case still lives on. Each account is different. Each one sounds impossible, but together they created something bigger than the facts. A warning. Because once people believe a secret went too far, they stop trusting the official version. They stop trusting the silence. And that is exactly what happened here. The project may have ended, but the fear did not. And every year after that, the same questions came back. What happened to the crew? What happened to the men who saw it? And why did so many of them seem to carry something home with them? Many said he was haunted. Others claimed the ship itself was. But no matter who told the story, one thing remained the same. Something was different when they came home. What happened to the crew? What happened to the men who saw it? And why did so many of them seem to carry something home with them?
The Navy denied it ever happened. Completely. Flat out. According to the records, the USS Eldridge never did that test. No secret vanishings, no strange electrical event, nothing worth talking about. That should have killed the story. It didn't. Because once a rumor gets into military history, it sticks. Especially when the files are missing. Especially when the names are redacted. Especially when the people involved are gone. And that's the part people never let go of. Not the legend itself, the silence around it. World War II was full of hidden projects, real ones, deadly ones, the kind nobody wanted on paper. New weapons, radar tricks, stealth work, chemistry nobody explained to the public. So when people heard about a strange Navy experiment, it didn't sound impossible. It sounded just hidden enough. That's why the story survived. Not because every detail checked out. It didn't. But because the cover-up felt believable. And once people start asking questions, they keep going. Who signed the orders? Who saw the tests? Why were parts of the story missing? Why did so many versions keep changing? Some say the tale grew from confusion. Maybe a ship was moved, maybe equipment failed, maybe people saw one thing and remembered another. That happens all the time. Memory gets messy. Stories get bigger. By the time they spread, nobody agrees on the first version. But believers never bought that answer. They looked at the gaps. They pointed at the sealed files. They pointed at the decades of official denial. They said the same thing over and over. Why deny something that never happened? That question keeps the legend alive. Not proof, just doubt. And doubt is powerful. It fills in the blanks faster than facts do. It turns a rumor into a mystery. It turns a mystery into a legend. So maybe the story was never about one ship. Maybe it was about what people already feared. Secret science, military experiments, things done far away from public eyes. Things the government would never fully explain. And that's where the Philadelphia experiment gets dangerous. Not in the details, in the possibility. Because even if the story was exaggerated, people still ask the same thing. What if something real happened first? What if an accident got buried? What if a classified project went wrong? What if the official version was only part of the truth? That's the hook. That's why this story never died. The Navy said no. Historians said probably not. But the public never fully moved on. Because some stories don't need proof to survive. They just need enough missing pieces. And this one had plenty. So the legend stayed alive in every copy, every retelling, every late-night conversation. A destroyed record here, a redacted page there, a witness story that changed with time, a file nobody could fully verify. Maybe it was all smoke. Maybe it was bad memory. Maybe it was a story built from pieces of real wartime secrecy. Or maybe, just maybe, something happened that was too strange to admit, too messy to explain, too risky to release. That's the part people still can't shake. Not what was proven, what was hidden, And until every file is open, the question stays open too. A failed experiment, a classified accident, or a project so strange they buried it before anyone could ask why. The Navy denied it ever happened, completely, flat out. According to the records, the USS Eldridge never did that test. No secret vanishings, no strange electrical event, nothing worth talking about. That should have killed the story. 80 years later, people still argue about this one. The Philadelphia experiment is still one of the biggest mystery stories ever told. No solid proof has ever locked it in, but no clean explanation has ever shut it down either. And that is why it's stuck. Because the story hits a real fear, not a movie fear, a real one. The fear that something important was done in secret. The fear that regular people were never meant to know the full truth. The fear that behind sealed doors, someone pushed too far. Maybe the ship vanished. Maybe it didn't. Maybe witnesses saw something strange. Maybe they filled in the blanks later. That happens. Memory bends, stories grow, rumors spread fast when people want answers. But even now, the legend keeps moving. Every new generation finds it again. Every new generation asks the same thing. What if there really was a test gone wrong? What if the Navy tried something they could not control? What if the story was bigger than the cover-up? That is the part people cannot let go of. Not just the ship, not just the cables, not just the old reports. It is the idea that the truth could sit right in front of us and still be out of reach. Think about how these stories survive. They do not need proof forever. They only need a crack. One strange witness, one missing file, one detail that never fits. After that, the story takes on a life of its own. And this one has had decades to grow. Some people say it was a military test that went wrong. Some say it was a mix of radar, fear, and bad memory. Some say the whole thing was built out of confusion, and some people still believe something happened that no one was supposed to see. I think that is why the story still works, because it never gives you a clean ending. It leaves you hanging, and when a story stays unfinished long enough, people start to hear their own fears inside it. A dark ocean, a warship, lightning overhead, then static. That is all it takes. Not because it proves anything, but because it feels like the kind of thing people would hide if it were real. So what happened? Maybe the USS Eldridge never disappeared at all. Maybe the legend was built from rumors and fear. Maybe someone saw a normal event and turned it into a myth. Or maybe there really was an experiment, and the full story is still buried somewhere no one can reach. The truth is, nobody has settled it. Not really. And until that happens, the mystery keeps breathing. That is what makes it last. Not evidence, not certainty, just doubt. And doubt is powerful. It keeps people talking. It keeps people searching. It keeps old stories alive long after the facts get blurry. So here is my question for you. What do you think happened during the Philadelphia experiment? Was it a secret test gone wrong, a hoax that got out of hand, or something even stranger? Drop your theory in the comments. And if you want more real cases, hidden files, and government mysteries that still do not make sense, subscribe to the Hidden Archives. What?